Hello and welcome to the Strategic Bookkeeper podcast. This podcast episode is one of a two-part series I'm doing. So this audio that you're going to hear in today's episode is actually from our induction series, which is in the transformation program. So you'll have links to like a waitlist for that in here. If you're not sure what that is, I think we make it fairly clear in here. But the moral of the story is that I've taken that audio to share in this podcast to create a part two because one of the tribe members in the transformation program has actually asked me to go deeper on this subject. So I was thinking, okay, well, maybe what I'll do is share the audio with the general community and then create the rest of the content to help this beautiful tribe member around mindset, around naming the critics, around creating health, wealth, and happiness through mindset mastery, which is definitely what it's all about. I will let you know that in the background, I am just daydreaming and preparing to roll out the Healthy Bookkeeper, which will level up the kind of content that I provide everybody in this space, okay? So what you're hearing today is very much from the Healthy Bookkeeper. When I put my Healthy Bookkeeper hat on, I absolutely want to inspire women globally to put themselves first. That is, put their physical, mental, and spiritual health first. And today's episode is definitely linked to all of that. I would actually love to hear what you think of this episode. Please feel free to shoot me an email or drop a comment into our private Facebook group. With all that said, let's jump in. I'm Jeannie Savage, the Strategic Bookkeeper. I've been in practice for 14 years, but more importantly, 5 years in, I achieved a lifestyle practice. This means I scaled my business, could take my hands off the wheel, and draw a nice six-figure income while being time rich. And that's what I call my dream on my terms. I was recently awarded Women in Finance Innovator of the Year, recognizing my book, my podcast, my program, and my impact globally. The Strategic Bookkeeper is my life's work, and the opportunity to help bookkeepers globally achieve the income and lifestyle that sets them free absolutely fills my cup. Please do connect with me on socials at the Strategic Bookkeepers Way private Facebook group or shoot me an email, hello@thestrategicbookkeeper.global. So now in terms of helping you to step out of a place of any fear, anxiety, and that kind of thing into a place of courage and confidence and getting it done, I want to introduce you to the concept that I've come up with of the three critics, okay? Now, we all go through periods of fear, anxiety, uncertainty, monster, imposter syndrome, all of these things, okay? This is part of the human condition, which is shame, all right? And completely normal. And the research by Brene Brown is if we learn to embrace the fact that shame is the human condition and not try and bury and avoid it and say, I don't go through shame, that is key to success being finding that contentment in life where we are able to step into a place of feeling that, call it evenness, yeah? So absolutely accepting shame as the human condition and that we all have shame. We all have the voice of shame that comes up on our shoulder and says, who do you think you are? You can't do that, yeah? And puts us into a place of where, even if it's just moment to moment or moments of anxiety, of fear, of uncertainty, of I'm not worthy, of all of these things, okay? So now I'd like to connect that to the critics. A quick word on how to work with me. You can join the waitlist for the Strategic Bookkeeper Transformation Program, which is a world-class, world first, described by members as mind-blowing, which typically pays for itself within a month and has a full money-back guarantee. Simply go to thestrategicbookkeeper.global/waitlist. I also have a pricing academy with a calculator and my entire suite of productized services, plus other courses and resources on my website. Email me if you have any questions, okay? In my own words, as I have kind of come up with this over time. So from time to time, I've heard people around me say things like, the people say this and the people say that, and they say it in a way as in people criticizing them. So for example, they might say, oh, people tell me that I can never achieve that, or people said I can't sell my house for this value, or people said I'll never be able to stick to that eating plan. And I've found myself asking, who are the people? Yeah, who are the people? And oftentimes I'm told, well, just people generally. And I say, well, hang on a sec, tell me exactly who, like it is family, is it friends, is it a particular friend, etc. And what I have found for myself and for others, okay, so this is a reflection on myself. When I feel criticized, yeah, I've asked myself, who are the people that are criticizing you, Jeannie? Yeah, because I would like to think, and I have observed, my experience is that on the whole, most people, yeah, family, friends, community, business buddies, colleagues, whatever, most people, yeah, the majority of people are actually cheering us on and supportive and can do. Yeah. So I believe it's really important to name and tame these critics. Yeah. So I think ultimately there are three primary types of critics that we need to name and tame. So they are, number one, the accidental critic, okay? And that is more often than not like a family member. And one of the primary examples I use is the parent-child relationship. And you see it in sitcoms, in movies, where the parent kind of throws bouquets with bricks in it. Maybe they don't realize, maybe it's the dynamic, but the parent is critical of the child. This is in an adult relationship, okay? So the parent becomes critical of the child. You know, criticism from a parent at any age can be quite crippling. And so this leads to, you know, the people are criticizing me, the people are putting me down. But realistically, it's often the accidental critic, as I call it. So I'll give you an example of what happened to a friend of mine. He had quite a lot of success, and his father said to him one day, "You're so successful, son. I'm so proud of you. I am just absolutely amazed, immensely proud, and to think I thought you were the child of mine who was least likely to do anything with their life." Right? So that's what I call the accidental critic, because the father, without maybe thinking about it, has accidentally thrown a bouquet with a brick in it and criticized the shit out of this person, out of this adult, by saying, you know, well done on your success, and I thought you were never going to get there, right? So it's the accidental critic that can make us absolutely crumble and self-doubt, and absolutely feeds the voice of shame on our shoulder. So that voice of shame is sitting there waiting to be fed. And this critic feeds the voice of shame, who then says, "Ha, I told you, you're not worthy, you're no good. Who do you think you are?" Imposter syndrome, okay? So that critic. Now, if we can name the accidental critic, we can more likely tame the accidental critic. Name it to tame it is an old school counseling tool, okay? So if I name that critic, I can kind of turn it into something funny, and I can say to the voice of shame, "I hear you. However, I am also, you know, a human. I am worthy. I am a human, and I know my values, and my self-worth is attached to being human and my values. And so while I'm proud of my own success, I am also just a beautifully flawed human being stumbling along with the illusion of control like everyone else." Okay, so the accidental critic. The second critic is the "I'm not okay, you're not okay" critic. So this is a Psychology 101 concept. It's called "I'm okay, you're okay." This happens for some people, all right? And I tend to say I kind of have a joke in my head, and I call them basic people, because if you don't really fully understand "I'm okay, you're okay," and you just are at the mercy of your own emotions and feelings, you can easily let it spill over to others and project your stuff on them. So some people absolutely do this. It's quite normal. And what happens is, if they're not feeling okay, so if you get someone who's in a bit of a shame and vulnerability shitstorm, they're going through a difficult time, what they may do is kind of throw bouquets with bricks in them at you which is like an insult wrapped in a compliment, in order to make you feel shitty because they feel shitty. And it is a psychology 101 thing, yeah? When that happens, I think it's important to recognize, so the people who do this do it frequently. Whenever they're in a poor place, whenever they're in a difficult place, they will throw bouquets with bricks in them in order to, I'm not okay, you're not okay. When they're in a great place, they will be like, I'm okay, you're okay. So they want to bring people down with them in order to make themselves feel better. And I absolutely know quite a few people like this, because again, it's a basic psychology thing. They don't mean it to be horrible, but they do it because they're probably not as in control of their emotions and maybe their behavior as some other people, okay? So it's not something that I tend to think that's a terrible person. I think that's a person doing the I'm not okay, you're not okay. So when that person criticizes us, once again, if we can name it to tame it and go, oh yeah, I've seen, let's say this person's name is Janet. I've seen Janet do this before. This is Janet's pattern. She's doing the I'm not okay, you're not okay. It's actually not an attack on me, although it is an attack, but I'm going to name it to tame it and tell the voice of shame, I know you love this. I know it's feeding you, but I'm not going to buy into this. So the very last critic is actually the biggest critic of them all. Okay. So can you guess who that critic is? The biggest critic of them all is ourselves. And these other two critics actually just serve to feed the critic that is ourselves. And the critic that is ourselves is the voice of shame. Yeah, it is the voice of shame on your shoulder saying, who do you think you are? Which is the human condition. If you have the voice of shame, if you suffer imposter monster, if you suffer anxiety, fear, congratulations, you're not a sociopath or a psychopath. Yeah, shame is the human condition. And it is the biggest critic. It is ourselves. Yeah. So when one of these other people criticizes us, it feeds the major critic waiting for confirmation bias that I'm not good enough, I can't do this, I'm not built for this, etc., etc. Okay. And so what's important is to name them, to tame them. And to tame them is really just about self-awareness. Yeah, and breathing through it, making room for shame and vulnerability, making room to kind of, I know for me, I try and have a little humor in my own head and just name it and go, that's kind of funny, that's the human condition, I get it, makes me feel like shit, but it makes everyone feel like shit. I can take heart in the fact that I'm just human, yeah? So I just want you to think about, is that new to you? Do you relate to the three critics? How can you move forward in your life in order to name and tame the critics, in order to be able to move out of fear and anxiety and imposter monster and freezing and all of these things, in order to move out of that into a place of courage and confidence and vulnerability, which is very, very important, okay, if you read Brené Brown's work, in a place where you can breathe, make room for shame, and simply take action and move past it, okay? How can you use what I've told you in order to do better in business and life? So if this stuff is hard for you, go back and listen all over again. Yeah, go back and listen as often as you need to. If it's not hard for you, great, but it is hard for the majority of people all over the world. What are you going to do next time you hear one of the critics? If you hear yourself say, the people tell me I can't do it, the people tell me I'm not good enough, the people say, you'll never stick to that thing, then can you take a moment, breathe, listen to this audio again, and then actually say, well, let's sit down and work out who the people are. Yeah, because I suggest it's one person or two people, and primarily feeding the voice of shame that is the biggest critic, which is ourselves, okay? So whenever you hear yourself say the people, yeah, I want you to stop and say there is no the people, yeah? Name the person, name the type of critic they are, name it to tame it, make room, and grow personally and professionally. Okay, my friend, now it is time to take action. So What are you going to do with what you learned today? The way I see it, you've got two options. You can go it alone to try and save some money, or you can back yourself and go for it and join my tribe. And let me tell you, we are knocking it out of the ballpark. That's not a sales pitch. That is me serving you, dare I say, courageously. To find success, I 100% know you need the mechanics, which is like the keys to the kingdom, but you also need to get your mindset right and be super productive. And these are all things I help you with inside the program. I could go on about this forever because I really want this for you. Have a prosperous week, and I'll see you in the next episode.